I've been playing the Yu-Gi-Oh card game for a good long time, and every now and then I do some research on new cards and archetypes. A couple months ago, I was looking around on the Yu-Gi-Oh wiki and I found something disturbing. Apparently, Kazuki Takahashi tried to make a new type of monster to be released alongside psychics, ghosts. This might be the reasoning behind the joke in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal when Astral asked Humo what kind of a card a ghost is. From what I read, it was widely released in Japan and only one pack series was released in the UK that was exclusively ghost-type cards, Tombstone Ritual, and they were only in stores for about a month. There wasn't much reasoning behind it on the wiki page, and just as strange anomalies were happening around that place that a lot of ghost-type cards were gathered, mostly tournaments and schoolyard dueling areas, I'm guessing. No other details. After a little more research, I noticed that most of the ghost-type cards were either changed into spirit cards or they were turned into zombie-type cards in later pack releases. One card that caught my eye in the latter list was Ill Blood, which was released in Crossroads of Chaos. I myself owned one, so I was curious if the effect of the ghost type was the same. I didn't see the ghost type version on the wiki, however, since there was only a couple released in the packs. Must have been an ulti. I told myself. I eventually forgot about it, being in school and all, but when summer break started, my interest was renewed. I searched eBay for a long while before finding something interesting. A bulk set of 119 cards, with the thumbnail being a ghost rare Ill Blood card, the kind released in the Tombstone Ritual packs. After reading the product description, I learned that the bulk set was in fact the entire English set released in the UK, plus a few duplicates. There were no bids and it was only $2. With only about an hour left to bid, I clicked bid and raised it to $5, just to make sure those cards were mine. Strangely enough, despite the fact that there was an hour left of the auction, the screen changed to say, "Thank you for purchasing this item. Please proceed to checkout." Now, I'm not a big eBay user, but I'm sure that when you bid, it doesn't automatically thank you for buying the item, just for bidding, and that you'd be notified when bidding was over or if someone outbid you. Anyway, I shook off the strange feeling and continued to pay for the cards. Almost immediately after the purchase, I got an email from the seller. This is what it said. "Thank you so much for buying these cards for me. You have no idea how long I've been trying to get rid of them. I wouldn't be surprised if you sell them off again later on. Thanks again, though." At the time, I had no idea what he meant by that, but once I received the cards, I knew instantly. At first, everything was normal. Cardboard box, send label, tape. However, it took me a second to realize that the sender used red tape. Who uses red tape for a box? I wondered. I shook this feeling off too, assuming that he ran out of regular tape. It can happen, right? So, without another thought, I opened the box and sifted through the cards. As promised, they were either ghost-type monster cards or either their support spell and traps. And all had the numbers starting with TSRT, indicating that they were from the Tombstone Ritual pack set. Time went on from then. I made a deck and dueled a few people. I got a lot of complaints because my opponents thought the cards were fake, but since I mostly dueled my friends who didn't mind at all, I didn't care. My best friend, who, for the purposes of security, we will call Samantha, was a perky blonde who was always trying to beat me, but never could so long as I was beating my ghosts. The one card she dreaded was the one card I always seemed to be able to draw against her, Ill Blood. You see, unlike the zombie/Gemini version released in Crossroads of Chaos, the ghost type was able to special summon itself from my hand if I controlled only one ghost type and all cards on my opponent's side of the field were anything but. Samantha hated this, seeing as how I am very conservative with my monsters and never summon them unless I absolutely have to. She'll always surrender at that moment, like she thought that if I attacked her game with Ill Blood, something awful would happen. This went on for a while until Sam got so disheveled that when I played Ill Blood, she didn't surrender, just stating that she didn't care who was going to win. She'd finally conquer that son of a bitch anyway. It concerned me that she referred to the card like it was a person, but I shook this notion off and won 2 turns later with a direct attack from Ill Blood. Slipped in her nightly shower and broke her neck. I was so... It's been a year now, I still don't have a word for it. I didn't even want to go to her funeral and see her head still tilted at a funny angle. I decided right then and there I was going to stop playing the game altogether, since playing it would only keep reminding me of the last time I saw her alive, yelling at my card, calling it a son of a bitch. What could she have meant by it? The morning after I was told my best friend was dead, I woke up holding the Ill Blood card, but something about it had changed. Instead of it being a ghost rare, it was colored in and non-holographic, but the name was a shiny indented black, like the rares from the Battle Pack Epic Dawn. The picture, instead of having a giant eye and a mouth in the stomach of the monster, held a girl being sucked into the depths of its fat belly. DD Warrior Lady, whom everyone says Samantha looked like. The text had also changed to read, "She's mine now, not yours. If you want her, you know what to do. I'm here watching and waiting, and 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 watching." I was officially done, unable to even deal with what was going on right now. Never before had I seen a card like this. I knew it couldn't be a fake because everything it needed to be real was in place. I'd never seen a fake card with a Battle Pack-like name engraving. Oh, I almost forgot. The entire front of the card was an eerie faded red. I wish I still had with me to show you, but what happened afterwards was just too much for me. The dreams I had after Sam died got worse and worse, going from just a small night terror to full-on sweat and paranoia-inducing nightmares. The worst one had me chained down in a steel room, facing Illblood as he dangled Sam's decaying body in front of me. Each time she would swing towards me, another chunk of me would be taken out by her long and almost claw-like nails as they dug into me. Now, bear in mind, Illblood wasn't the only spook I had to deal with. Oh no, he was just beginning. After a couple of days of being hunted by Sam, I started seeing other ghosts here and there around the house, in my sleep, in my books, everywhere. By far, the one that scared me the most was the one I called the King. His card name was actually Universitas Rex, which translates to King of the Universe. He could take the shape of any dead thing on any planet, but his favorite form was of a young man, around my age, nearly completely decayed with a strange red and white mist trailing behind him. It was the most persistent. Even when I didn't see it, I knew it was there, behind me, watching. I can clearly remember not putting his card on the deck because it was too hard to look at. I guess that was my punishment, having to look at it or smell it always. But something else dawned around me around that time. I found one sole picture of the pack art for Tombstone Ritual. On it was a background of grave markers, and in the foreground was the king, which meant that the other ghosts were soldiers. And if there is a king with soldiers, there is war. A war for what, you might ask? A war for my soul is my answer. But they wouldn't win me over. I started to put the deck in a red deck box and the others in a box wrapped in red tape. While the dreams of visions continued, my life was almost normal again. For school, when I came home, I found my box open and all the cards scattered across the floor. Wave after wave of pure negative energy flowed through me, pulsing in my blood. My head was spinning. I was brought to my knees.
You will bow before the king.
A voice ran through my head. I forced myself to look up, and standing there was the king. His face held evil smirk, and he started to look more and more just like me. Just see-through.
The war has only begun. You think you're the only one we're after? How foolish.
I realized in that moment that the ghosts weren't just after me. They wanted everything I had, all I'd ever loved and cared for. I tried to stand. I tried to defend myself. The king just laughed and stepped through me, sending a shiver up my spine. I blacked out shortly after. In my dream, the ghost army was assembled before me, bowing. I looked around with pride, believing I conquered them finally. Even the infamous Illblood kneeled to me. My joy was short-lived, because a row of soul reflectors, a ghost-type support card, stood before me. Their mirrored sides showed me who I was, what I was. The skin came dripping off my face like water. I stood tall and proud in a black robe with a golden crown resting on my head. My empty eye socket stared soullessly back at me.
I was the king.
I woke up in a hospital, hooked to an IV bag and a vital sensor. My parents were standing over me. They told me about how 3 more of my friends died while I was out. 2 in a car accident and 1 in a break-in. Needless to say, I was crushed. Ghosts had taken another group of my friends and nobody else knew it but me. I'm sure you say, "Want to tell anyone about this?" My answer? You're right. I'll just tell them that my friends are dying because a box of haunted trading cards are sitting in my room. Let's see how fast they put me away in that nice little white room with the jacket that makes me hug myself. When I got home, I decided to do some research for the first time. As it turns out, from what I found on a deeply hidden forum post on a site I have long since forgotten, when the ghost site cards were printed, 3 of Konami's workers fell into the press. Those 3 have still not been named, but it is rumored that one of them was a murderer. I tried to get a hold of the person who had posted this information, hoping to find out more. However, I soon found out that he or she had deleted his or her account about 2 years prior. As you could assume, I was annoyed to no end. I was left with little information, an army of spirits haunting a set of cards, 4 friends dead, and the guilt of an apparently hefty medical bill on my parents. I figured there was only one thing left to do. I had to destroy the cards. My first attempt was to cut them into bits. That only made things worse as the ghosts began to multiply my dreams tenfold, so I thought I should burn them. Also not good, because the morning afterwards I found all of the cards neatly stacked next to my computer, with Illblood and Universitas Rex on top. I contemplated sending them through a few wash cycles with some heavy-duty bleach, but decided against it. As if it worked, I'd be stuck cleaning the machine out for days. I kept trying and trying and trying to rid myself of the curse for 3 months. Out of options and out of luck, and out of the will to go on, I tried one last desperate act to save myself. I advertised the entire 119 card set of Tombstone Ritual with some duplicates. I set the thumbnails at Ghostware Illblood. I set the starting bid price at $2. I prepared the cardboard box with red tape. When I saw that someone else had bid for $5 with about an hour left of hope, I ended the auction immediately and sent the buyer an email. Thank you so much for buying these cards for me. You have no idea how long I've been trying to get rid of them. I wouldn't be surprised if you sell them off again later on. Thanks again, though. I sent the cards off to the buyer the same day. I was free, finally free. That night I had the best sleep in months. No nightmares, no king, no dead friends, just darkness. Just how I like it. The above is a transcript of a video file found on the computer of the deceased James Jackson. He and his family had died in a house fire a week after the video was created. Investigation reports has found no discernible cause for the fire and have written it off as an accident. What the reports left out was that the only items in the house not reduced to ash were the computer this video was found on and a Yu-Gi-Oh playing card, Reversion Rex. Hey everyone, Beta here. I was hoping to have this segment here be a little blooper reel for the little mess-ups like I did in the shadow game Yugioh plug, but some complications occurred. For context, the reading for this video is my third take on the entire story. The first time I had to delete it because there was too much background noise I wasn't paying attention to while I was recording, to the point where I thought it would have been easier to just delete the entire thing and try again. Then I caught the flu and was sick for about a week and was impatient, pissed, and very irritable and decided to record anyway after I was almost over my flu. It had been a week since I read it. I figured that maybe it could still be relatively fresh in my head when reading it again and maybe I could poke fun as an afterword for the video. Well, still pissed and irritable and congested, the recording was just mucus-filled anger. I tried to laugh with it, but instead came off as heated and mocking toward the story. And I'll admit that out of the 3 pastas I planned to read for October that this was the least liked by me, but that it didn't warrant being as rude as I was. So, I deleted the second recording and waited until my cold pass. The third recording didn't have any bloopers. Uncut audio is just stuttering and repeating words I tried to get to the point. Though I didn't want to leave this blank because I thought it would be a bit inconsistent with the first pasta, so I thought that maybe I could take a look at the 2 ghost type monsters provided and just give my thoughts on how they could have been adapted into real life play, with the playing style provided in the context of the monsters, as well as give some clear text. The theme for this channel is to adapt to fictional cards anyway. So let's check out Ill Blood in Reversion Rex. Ill Blood is a level 6 ghost type monster with 2500 attack and 1500 defense, dark attribute, and says if you only control 1 ghost type monster and your opponent controls 1 or more monsters that are not ghost type, you can discard every card in your hand but this card. Special summon this card in attack position. Reversion Rex is a level 8 dark ghost spirit monster with 3000 attack and 2600 defense and says cannot be normal summoned. During the end phase of the turn this card is special summoned, return to the hand. When this card is special summoned, if your opponent controls more monsters than you can pay 1500 life points. Until the end of this turn, you can normal summon any number of ghost type monsters from your hand. Spirit monsters do not return to their owner's hands if they are normal summoned after this card's effect resolves. So for the cleanup text and changes, if you control a ghost type monster and your opponent does not, you can reveal this card. Send all cards from your hand to the graveyard except this card. Special summon this monster in attack position. Cannot be special summoned. During the turn this card is summoned, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can pay 1500 LP. This turn you can normal summon ghost type monsters an additional amount of times equal to the difference in monsters both players control. Once, during the end phase, if this card is normal or flipped face up, this turn, return to the hand. So Ill Blood is strictly cleanup text with the exception of a word change. Instead of discarding, the effect is now sends, and the reason being is to keep in mind of the current game state. And the hypothetical release of ghost type, I think it would be better, at least for the Tombstone Ritual set, if the ghost types work exclusively within themselves and see how they would work as a standalone type set. Much like Psychics were, at first, before broadening horizons with archetypes and generic ghost monsters. And I point this out because Danger and Dark World are a thing right now, most known for our mix of the two, and again it'd be nice to first see how ghosts function within themselves. Reversion Rex had big suggested changes, and the reason being is consistency with subtype. I can understand wanting to go outside the norm, especially for the sake of story, I guess. But if you're going to keep ghosts within the theme of spirits, then it would be ideal to stick with the concept appropriately. I can't go into detail about Rex's usefulness to it overall as there's not much to work with in terms of what ghosts do, though I don't think they were planned beyond just 2 cards, not that I'm trying to shame that being the case. They are meant to just provide the Yu-Gi-Oh nature of the story. However, if this were to ever be expanded upon, I would just like to present some suggestions. 1. Graveyard effects. Being ghost and zombie retrains, it would be thematically appropriate for most effects having the abilities from the dead, or just the graveyard. This in turn would better help justify Ill Blood's pitching ability and give some consistency boost up for them overall. Graveyard effects should apply to Spell and Trap lineup as well, at least to some degree. Either an effect that goes off on the pitch, like monsters in this hypothetical case, or by having an effect by banishing itself from the graveyard and getting some additional effects depending. 2. The spirit monster should follow normal summon focus with a special summon restriction, but in light of it should have some good effects with their summons, be them activation, triggering, or tenuous. Perhaps some of the spell trap cards should let you normal summon a ghost spirit type monster during your opponent's turn with a reactive effect to disrupt the opponent and potentially add itself back to your hand during their end phase. It would be rather unique if maybe it's a mix between ghosts and ghost/spirit monsters, as shown by Ill Blood and Rex being separate in this regard. And just make sure it won't be degenerately distasteful, because Rex's multi-normal summon could potentially be devastating, but it shouldn't lead to unfair plays by the hypothetical monsters in question. 3. Almost every archetype has a field spell, most of them legitimately good or just downright amazing. Just make sure that would be a thing and that it would have a balanced effect. 4. Spirits don't have any extra deck monsters to speak of. They only recently broke the mold with ritual monsters as Shino birds like I think a year back, though they are still a main deck kind of focus. I wouldn't suggest spirit extra deck monsters unless you're confident in yourself that you can make them work, but just having them as ghosts / whatever extra deck type monsters should be fine. Especially a Baron and Baroness that can spin / bounce cards and bypass summoning conditions with their effects. So I would suggest playing a spirit deck that's viable in the current Yu-Gi-Oh to have a deep understanding of them. That, of course, being the example, Shino birds and the incantation things aren't that bad of an ad at all. If anything, it just makes the deck a lot more amazing. And this was your boy Beta, and thanks for watching. I'll be doing one more of these Yu-Gi pastas and hopefully have another anime adaptation before the end of this month to keep in theme with Halloween. Hope you have a good whatever time it is, and I'll see you in the next one.